Fitchum, Representative Mark Fitchum, and Senator Wendy Rogers. We would have got a better night's sleep last night at the hotel if they would have had my pillows, but they don't.
Okay, can I start this here?
I guess we're ready.
I think we're gonna run a video real quick.
The video meme. No, meme.
The router video.
Video meme, M-E-M-E.
But you know what? If we lost the election, we know when we lose. If I lost the election, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. Seriously, the county has refused to reduce the network routers. We want the routers, son. The county refused to reduce the network routers. When do we get the routers, please? If you got those routers, what the hell's up? And they don't want to give up the routers. They are fighting like hell. Why are these commissioners fighting to get the routers? How's that going to be? It's all good. And they don't want to give up the routers. What are they trying to hide? And I'll say it, because the easiest way of cheating is to throw them away. That's the easiest. The county refused to reduce the network routers. We want the routers, son. The county refused to reduce the network routers. When do we get it? The routers, please. It's soft. It's off. I'll be honest. Look, we all like to win. If I lost this election, I could handle it previously. What if 25%? You're gonna win. And I said, wait a minute. I just won 6 months ago. The big lie they go. Those two are proven. And knowing what happened in the election is a good thing, not a bad thing. It's a good thing, not a bad thing. It's a good thing. The county has refused to reduce the network routers. We want the routers, son. The county refused to reduce the network routers. When do we get it? The routers, please. If you think about cancel, everything about cancel culture, they want to cancel culture. But what they don't want to do is anything having to do with the 2020 election. We have no...
No, I can get the point. Sometimes life is too serious to be taken too seriously, so you gotta have some fun, and if you're not laughing, you're not living, and whoever made that one, that was brilliant. But anyway, what we're gonna do is we're gonna kind of, here's the Arizona experience. Okay, so, but first off, I want to start off with something. Actually, Wendy, can you read off this?
He's a Marine and I'm Air Force, so he wants me to read.
Where's the Marines? Let's hear it for the Marines. Hoorah!
We must give voters the confidence that their ballot was counted as cast by supporting mandatory, statistically meaningful post-election audits. And full transparency of all election results and data to ensure every eligible ballot is counted. Vote by mail voters must be informed of and provided a meaningful opportunity to fix any problem with their ballot. A professional and well-trained election workforce is critical to the administration of elections. We support ongoing federal and state funding for local elections offices.
Okay, hindsight being 2020, right? 2020 is a very significant number. That's on the 2020 Democrat Party platform.
Democrat.
Amazing. It's on page 56. The hypocrisy of the Democratic Party and the far left is completely off the charts. But anyway, we're gonna go from the beginning. How did this all start? So I'm gonna pass this off on to Mark Fitchum, who is the lead dog in this sled on November 30th. So Mark, please.
Thank you, Senator Morelli. So it's interesting, we look at the 2020 Democrat platform, and election integrity is not a party issue. If we really hold this organization to the words that they put out, their official party platform. They endorse free and fair elections. They endorse the idea that meaningful post-election audits should be conducted when there's a question of controversy, and that's exactly what we did. So, beginning November 3rd, by about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, each one of us began to receive emails, and they totaled into the tens of thousands by the time we got to November 10th or 12th. I had asked the leadership in the House of Representatives, at the time I was the chairman of the Federal Relations Committee, to hold a election integrity hearing, public hearing on election integrity. And I got slow-walked, basically blocked, from using House resources to hold a public hearing in response to the email requests, in some cases demands, of our constituents. Now, knowing that I'm not elected by leadership, but I'm elected by the constituents, I reached out to Senator Borelli, who is the Senate Majority Whip, and to our colleague Leo Biasucci, who is the House Majority Whip. Leo couldn't be with us because he's got other duties for legislative responsibilities. And I asked them, can we collect up the members who are willing to sit for a public hearing? And out of that, we invited just about everybody in the House, just about everybody in the Senate. And very few people want to take a stand.
Right.
Now, it's amazing what just a small amount of courage does to the polity when you actually sit and listen to them. So, on November 30th, we moved our usual public hearing time to the Hyatt Regency downtown Phoenix. Because of COVID restrictions, we weren't able to fill the 800-person ballroom. We could only have 160, and that was with 10 slots for media, 10 slots for a legal team, and 10 slots for the panel. We started at 9 o'clock in the morning, and I think everybody has seen the video. At 10:30, our governor and our fairly corrupt Secretary of State signed off on the certification of our official canvas. That was an hour and a half into the presentation and testimony. And I'd like to bring up the reason that we decided to move forward with a public hearing. You know, we'll hear from the fake media, the fake news, that, oh, well, you know, this evidence that Mr. Giuliani and his team had failed in court. Well, the truth is, it was never decided on merits. It was always decided on competent jurisdiction. And I think, as much as I might be excoriated for this, the courts actually had it right. This is a legislative fight, and you don't want this in the courts. You've seen what the courts will do.
Yeah.
So on November 30th, we spent 10 and a half, I would say, grueling hours listening to evidence that was presented by the Giuliani team and giving constituents the opportunity to be heard. That was probably the most important thing that we could do. At 7:30 in the evening, the Hyatt Regency said, we're at the outside of your contract. Would you like to renew for another day? Not at that price tag, thank you very much. Because ultimately it ended up costing about $25,000. By the way, that's cost that probably should have been the burden of the House of Representatives. But once again, we see that the people have a vested interest in hearing the truth. So out of generous contributions by a number of people, also people paying their own way, I'd like to go on record right now, since I've been fact-checked on this so many times, it's ridiculous. The Trump team paid their own way. Nobody paid for them. I covered the cost until we could actually get all the invoices collected. So I want to be very clear, by the end of the day, we realized we never would have needed subpoenas. We could have gone a whole other day, maybe a half a day, the following day, with all of the people who were lined up to testify. So to them, if they happen to be watching this, I've said it before, I'll say it again, it was no slight to you, we just ran out of time. Now, what we were able to uncover, some will argue whether or not it was probable cause, some will call it clear and convincing. I will tell you this, that Senator Eddie Farnsworth, the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, a lawyer, recognized that there was substantial evidence, which is not a legal term of art, but somewhere between probable cause and clear and convincing, that it was time to hold a hearing in the Senate Judiciary Committee. And that was where the subpoenas for the work that's been ongoing out of the Senate, that's where those subpoenas originated from. But I'll close with my comments just very quickly. I flew to Washington, D.C. on January 5th with an evidence book. It was about an inch and a half thick, to hand deliver to Congressman Paul Gosar, so that he was armed with the facts. He was armed with the evidence that we had collected on November 30th to show that there were substantial discrepancies in the Maricopa County election, and that we were asking 21 members of the House and 5 members of the Senate asked for Vice President Pence to hold Arizona's electors pending one of two things. That was either that litigation that was in process be completed, or that we complete a forensic audit. We had 14 days to get that done. And I'm going to turn it over to Senator Borelli, because on December 14th, that's when the real ball started rolling. Senator?
Right. President Fan authorized the committee, the Judiciary Committee, to have a hearing and bring in the county supervisors and the election departments. They have just one county supervisor, their chairman representing the county, Maricopa County, and their election folks. So we have them up here in committee. So Senator Eddie Farnsworth, let me tell you what, he was a great chairman, he was a great legislator, and of course he chose not to run again. He got tired of the left pounding and falsely, accusing everybody. Anyway, you know how it is. Anyway, we held a hearing, we heard testimony from county folks, and one of the very things that were very striking that stood out to me was the insistence that this was not, the machines are not hooked to the internet.
Right.
Okay. So, I'm just an up and dragon drawing with a GED, but I kind of knew how to read and figure things out. But when I asked the elections people, well, there's been allegations that only their vendors were allowed to touch the tabulation machines and no county employees were allowed to touch them. So could you please address that? I said, no, they had full control over everything. I said, so how do we know that? Because it's been alleged that somebody could take one of them thumb drives or whatever, the little who's it, so they are. They can take it out of the machine and go and plug it into a laptop and change things around, because that's been alleged that things ended up in cyberspace and switched around. No. We had full control, chain of custody. We had, everything was logged. There was cameras on it, 24. You couldn't move without the camera being on. I'm like, okay, good. Well, what about the office space for your vendors, your election equipment vendor, which is actually Dominion? And they say, well, what do you mean? You have cameras in their office space. They go, I don't understand the question. Well, it's a quick, simple question. You have cameras in their office space, because I recall watching a county supervisors meeting where one of the supervisors was either bragging or complaining about the county providing county taxpayer workspace for a third-party vendor in the election department. And they said, oh yeah, you're right. We do have a workspace for them. We have office space for them. Okay, good. You have security cameras in there. And they go, well, I understand the question. It's simple. How do we know that they didn't take one of the little thumb drives or whatever they are and stick it into SP cards or whatever the heck these things are? They stick it into one of their laptops and change something in cyberspace, because that's been alleged. Well, there's no internet. There's no internet hookup. Okay, well, here's the problem that I'm having. Because of COVID, we did not do our hearing at the Senate, in the Senate. We did it all via Zoom. So I have to rent a condo year-round in Phoenix. I live 3 hours away. So I'm at the kitchen table and I got my government laptop. And we're all doing this. Well, here's my problem. I'm on a government laptop right now. The only 2 wires that are plugged into this thing is the power cord and the mouse, because I'm old school. I got to use the old mouse. And I go, I said, but right now we're communicating during Wi-Fi. Isn't that the internet? And of course, dead silence from them. Of course, watching Eddie Farnsworth on the screen just kind of rocked back and just kind of grinned because he knew exactly where I was going with this. I said, so you cannot say with 100% accuracy that nothing got changed on the internet from anybody's laptop or anything, because anything can be hacked. Anything can be hacked. So in fact, my phone is via Wi-Fi. How can you say that? So that's when Eddie Farnsworth heard enough, and that's when he issued the subpoena with the authorization from the President, Karen Fann, President of the Senate, and that's how things got started, and we subpoenaed the county. Now, when those subpoenas went out, then they acted all shocked and hurt because they didn't see it coming. Well, that's a complete lie, because Senator Farnsworth let them know 3 days ahead of the committee that subpoenas were on the table, and most likely the subpoenas would be issued. And they knew that. So right off the bat, the spin started. And let me tell you something, Maricopa County's got more spin than the Beatles LP, let me tell you. For you younger folks, that's a record. Never mind. So that's when the spin and the lies started coming out, and the obstructionism. And then they started fighting the subpoenas. They chose to fight us in court. They didn't want to comply. We tried to pass a resolution to hold them in contempt. Now, Arizona state law says the Senate has to vote on a contempt of the Senate, so that way, then if they don't comply, then the Senate President can sign a warrant to send these sergeant at arms down to take them into custody. Now, they don't go to jail, because Arizona state law doesn't do that. They would just bring them to the state Senate, where they're the guests of the Senate, and down in the basement with our intern, and staff. So we wouldn't, we don't throw them in jail. We would just take them into custody. But we tried to pass a resolution. Now, the Senate makeup politically is 16 Republicans and 14 Democrats. So we need 16 votes to pass anything. Well, unfortunately, we have one senator who decided to, at the last minute, after we signed on to the resolution at the last minute, not telling anybody what his intentions were, he voted no. He voted with the Democrats to not support the resolution. Now, not only did he undermine the own authority of the state Senate, but he undermined the authority of the direct representation of the people of Arizona. And that's what people are missing, because we are the direct representatives of the people, and they just undermine everybody that voted for in the state of Arizona. So anyway, they chose to fight us. We went to court. The Attorney General filed an amicus brief, if you will. I don't know if that's the right word, but stating that our subpoenas are legal and enforceable. The judge concurred because that was the matter before the court. The question is, are our subpoenas legal and enforceable? And the judge concluded, yes, our subpoenas are legal and enforceable. And of course, the county said, okay, fine, we'll comply. Then they left the courtroom and they started complying a little bit. They didn't comply fully. Now, we chose to do the audit at the Maricopa County Election Center. We chose to do it there. That's where it should have been. That's where the election was held. That's where they came and they certified the machines, and they did a recertification of the machines after the election. And then they said they were going to do their own audit. Well, you can't audit yourself by having the same company that came out and certified equipment to come out and do another certification and call that an audit. Now, the Election Assistance Commission does not certify companies to do audits. They only certify companies to certify machines or operating property at the time of inspection.
Labs. They certify labs.
They certify labs, right. But that's it. They don't certify companies to do audits. They can call it an audit, or you can call it a ham sandwich. We all know it's baloney, and that's exactly what they were. But so we started to do our own, and they wouldn't give it. So we started to move on that. We wanted, like I said, we wanted to do everything there on site. We wanted to get in there. The forensic cyber guys could go in there and check the equipment. They could have been in and out of there within a week. Just get the equipment, download the data they needed, they were gone. We could have brought out one pallet at a time and counted ballots and scanned them all and done our thing. They chose to push it away from the county tabulation center. They chose to push it where we had to rent the Veterans Coliseum, where the fairgrounds is at. They chose to push that off-site. which costs us more money, more logistics, responsibilities and resources that have to be expended, cost more money, more taxpayer dollars. They chose to do that. And guess who did not lift a finger? Because that jeopardized the chain of custody. The Secretary of State, Katie Hobbs, never lifted a finger to intervene and say, no, stop. We have to make sure the integrity of this equipment is intact. We have to maintain the chain of custody. So, did not intervene at all. They encouraged it to be pushed off-site. Now, they thought they would get over on us because they thought they would attack us on chain of custody. But when they drove up the trucks to drop all the ballots off, we had cameras on them the whole way to a cage, where security cameras are on there 24/7, and all the equipment, the election equipment, same thing. So that way the chain of custody was completely tracked and under constant 24-hour surveillance and armed security.
And I would add that helicopter overwatch of the trucks from the Maricopa County Center to the Veterans Coliseum, these guys were falling over themselves trying to get a better shot. So it was probably one of the best covered helicopter jobs in the history of our state.
Yeah, I know, it's almost as bad as almost as good as the president's motorcade was or anything.
Just about.
But anyway, so that's how we still got the audit started. Remember, keep in mind, they chose to push it off-site. So other states, don't allow them to do that. Because what they're trying to do is set you up to fail. So they can accuse you of breaking the chain of custody, accuse you of something in the future. So now we're into the audit mode. Now I'm going to let, please, Senator Rogers was outstanding and stellar on actually showing a lot of folks that came in to get a tour of the audit and give them the play-by-play. So please,
Well,
Senator
thank you,
Rogers.
Sonny and Mark. These are my brothers, really, who keep me in line. I'm a brand new elected official. I represent northern Arizona, where 4 counties comprise my district, and not one of them is Maricopa County. And when you come from a rural part of the state, your constituents really want to know what happened. They feel as though, since they don't live in Phoenix or Tucson, they're sort of out in the hinterland, and so they constantly ask me, Senator, what's going on down there? So here I am, a new vice chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee. I'm in my corner office that Gunny gave me that has no windows. Then Senate President Karen Fann put out a text and said, if you want to go down to the audit, which is only a mile from the Capitol, by the way, you could go. So I was the first one, other than Sonny, to go and have a look. And I went that very day, which was toward the end of May, because I was fascinated. Here we are on the front row of history. And so I made an appointment to sit down with someone who was expert to walk me through it. So I sat down with this guy who was in his 40s, late 30s, who gave me all the detail thus far of where the audit was for about an hour. And then another gentleman took me around on the floor. And what I saw on the floor, and as many of you have seen the photos of, were these colored Lazy Susan style tables that the votes were counted on. And 3 of the 5 people at each table were Maricopa County voters who voted in the November 2020 election. 2,000 of these kinds of volunteers gave up their time at the audit. So they not only had skin in the game because they had voted in that election, but they were vetted and background checked. And the chain of custody and the accountability of where each ballot went and how it was tabulated was excruciatingly acute and minutely tracked. And so the first time I was walking around, and I had a security guy, you might remember him from the cameras, he had a white cowboy hat on, and Cowboy Andy was his nickname. He took me around and he said, Colonel, I have someone here on the floor I want you to talk to. So he motioned over this gentleman who came to me and said, Wendy,
I also served in the Air Force. I was also a pilot like you in the Air Force. I'm a retired general officer. And I said, great to meet you, sir. And he said, I want to tell you, I flew tankers in Strategic Air Command. He said, the chain of custody in this room is tougher and more acute and narrow than even it was in Strategic Air Command. He said, I can't go to the bathroom without signing off these tabulation sheets I'm working on. He said, I've never seen anything like this. And so fast forward, Sonny had me host many of you brave patriots who journeyed to Arizona.
Yeah.
Hats off to you. And among them was none other than former Governor Eric Greitens of Missouri, Navy SEAL, who had the same observation in terms of accountability and chain of custody of the procedures on that floor, which were bar none better in many cases than the U.S. military. So you had Navy, you had Air Force, all of us seeing the excellence of this. What about the actual forensic look at the ballot itself? 4 different parameters were looked at underneath a microscopic camera. We're talking the yellow dot watermarks in the paper. We're talking how the hash mark lines lined up from the back to the front of the paper. We're talking, and this is what amazed me the most, was whether or not the oval bubble was filled in by a human or not. Because of the 3-dimensional ability for that microscopic camera to look at the paper and whether or not it was cratered. And we could look at the fibers of the paper. The media is beside itself because they won't communicate the truth of the excruciating detail to which this analysis was done of 2.1 million ballots. 2.1 million ballots. This is a packageable effort. This is a transportable, usable again in other states project that you can take. And the two companies are Cyber Ninjas, the overarching application security company, and Cypher, CYFIR, data security company. And so that first day I was there, I went back to my house and I looked up this technician who had spent an hour with me before I walked the floor. It was none other than Doug Logan himself, the CEO of Cyber Ninjas, who had spent an hour with the little grandma from Flagstaff. And these men and women are the best and brightest of our country in terms of cyber security, expertise, and level of access with security clearance. So don't let anyone tell you that this is anything less than the most professional audit imaginable. And as President Karen Fann will tell you, she would tell me, Wendy, there is no yellow pages entry that you can open up and find an audit entity that can audit an election. We had to put together experts from around the country at the behest of other secretaries of state and Senate presidents and the Federal Election Commission. She pulled Karen Fann, a woman with a steel spine from a rural district, just as we are, pulled these experts together dauntlessly, tirelessly, and got them hired. And so you can do that also. We are here to encourage you, to let you know that we will get to the truth and that you can do it in your states.
That's right.
I would add that it's my understanding that the major auditing houses were contacted and asked if they would like to do the work. And the response was, we'll have to take a pass because we have government contracts that are at risk. What a surprise. The other thing that I want to make note of is, and Senator Rogers has teed this up very well, it's not just what was found in the audit itself, but it is the documents that have been discovered as a result of discovery and process. Look, folks, you can either have fast or you can have accurate. Fast is a service to the media. Accuracy is a service to the people. That is where we need to have our focus. So now we have letters that have come out. As time goes on, and I've used this metaphor before, the ocean is truth, and a vessel with a crack in it is a lie. Sooner or later, enough water is going to seep in, enough truth is going to seep in that it's going to sink that vessel with lies. So we now have documents that have been uncovered, internal documents that were released publicly by the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors and the, I believe it was the Elections Department. Y'all have heard of Sharpiegate?
Yeah, I remember Sharpiegate, it was all over the news and Facebook and everything.
Yeah,
It's
so
a conspiracy
the
theory.
media mocked the conspiracy theory of Sharpiegate. Well, here's a little bit of fact that folks can check. People were instructed to use ballpoint pens up to, and this is a quote, up to the day of the election, but on the day of the election, instruct voters to use Sharpies. Interestingly enough, one of the things that was disclosed in the most recent hearing is that there was ink bleed through because of Sharpies,
Imagine that.
which caused ballots to do what? Go to adjudication. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is where one of the major areas of potential fraud exists. Because if it bleeds through, if the ink bleeds through the paper, it confuses the automated machine, which, by the way, I'm not a fan of automated machines. I'm a big fan of hand counting. It confuses the machine and forces electronic adjudication. That's where somebody decides who you voted for. Not where you voted for, who they think you voted for. There's a couple of great pieces on that we can get you that show the analysis that Cyber Ninjas did, which quite frankly is fascinating to see just how off some of these dots were. But the important thing that I want you, the big takeaway, is that there are so many different ways to defeat a legitimate ballot. It takes just a little bit of courage. And I guarantee you, your constituents will reward you for standing up for their right to vote, for a fraud-free election, for a transparent system, and the protection of the right to scrutinize an election.
Yeah, I also need to make note, I mean, Senator Rogers brought it out, there was a retired two-star Air Force general there. We also had retired FBI, retired other law enforcement, retired IRS agents that know how to do these numbers things. And of course, it's amazing how the media, the mainstream media, throws out all kinds of misinformation, disinformation, flat out lies to discredit the audit. They're saying they're not qualified to do it. How much qualification do you need to have to go? 1 piece of paper, 2 pieces of paper, 3 pieces of paper. They literally insulting the intelligence and the integrity of folks that volunteer. Like I said, the volunteers, regardless of party preference.
Right.
Republicans, Democrats, Independents, Green Party, you name it. Everybody was there, all walks of life. Moms, dads, retired grandpas, grandmas.
And we purposely did not ask what their party was. Didn't know, didn't want to know.
They care. We just want people that wanted to, that had skin in the game, Maricopa County residents that wanted to ensure that they were there, because after all, it's your ballot, it's your vote. So, this is where we are right now. Is we got some preliminary results in. We left, and by the way, legislators out there, you know what I'm talking about. on this? We're constantly getting a barrage of FOIA requests coming from the hard left, correct? Right? Well, they hit us with a FOIA request. They wanted to have all correspondence between Cyber Ninjas, which is basically the quarterback of the audit, and the Senate. We took it to court and said this is legislative privilege. Our investigation is still ongoing. We're not doing a recount. We're doing an audit. That's a government function. It's an audit. So they tried to disrupt, and they had the Department of Justice get involved and everything else. And the Department of Justice tried to intimidate us. And well, you know, it's Arizona, okay? And what do we have in Arizona? We have a lot of sand, right? So the Department of Justice came in. They wanted to try to intimidate us. Well, and of course, Senator Rogers told them to do what? Go pound sand. So that's it, right? Anyway. They hit us with these FOIA requests. The judges, the court said no. They're an agent of the Senate, so therefore they have to comply. You have to. It's public record. You need to comply and disclose that. Okay. Well, President Fenn, as great as she is, turned right around and hit the county with FOIA requests. Secretary of State's office, former county recorder's office, and Dominion, and hit them with FOIA requests because what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Because guess what? Dominion is a contracted agent of the county. She also hit up with another subpoena for more items and to reinforce the subpoena on the routers, passwords, and hardware tokens and skunk logs and stuff like that, and a bunch of other things that she requested. And to also Dominion hit them with a subpoena, and of course they're saying they're not going to comply. Well, you know, we knew this was coming, so I waited for Senator Fenn to exhaust what she needed to do, and then, of course, I've got tired of it. Well, what happens when diplomacy breaks down with our government? What usually happens?
You call in the Marines.
We call it the military. Okay, I'll take that one. Yeah, call it the Marines. But we had a nice piece of legislation that passed here in 2016. It was Senate Bill 1487. And at the time, Senator Andy Biggs, he's the president of the Senate, now he's in the U.S. House of Representatives, representing Arizona, I think 9th District or 5th District, whatever. Anyway, we passed this law that states if a county or city is raised an ordinance or is not complying with state law, any legislator can request the Attorney General to do an investigation. If the Attorney General concludes the investigation that they are in violation of state law, or they have to rescind an ordinance that violates state law or contradicts, they have 30 days to remedy. In other words, fix it. If they don't, then the Attorney General shall notify the state treasurer to withhold 10% of their state shared revenue. That's a financial sanction. Now, for Maricopa County, that's a little over $61 million. That's not peanuts, but it's still a sanction. Also, they can be charged with a crime because violation of a Senate subpoena is a Class 2 misdemeanor. And of course, my request to the Attorney General had multiple, I saw multiple counts of violations of the Class 2 misdemeanor, so they can actually, hopefully they stack them up and they do it concurrently, not consecutively, but concurrently. That'd be nice if they just do it right here. But, so this is where we are now. I hit them with that last week, and on Friday, the Attorney General notified the county that this action is underway, an investigation is underway. They have till the 20th of August to respond, and then we'll go from there. Now,
And that's jail time and a fine.
it could be jail, so they could be personally charged. I'm not sure about that. I'm not an attorney. I just played it on TV, but hopefully they can be charged with a crime, and that'd be nice because they're not showing contempt towards just the Senate. They're showing contempt towards the voters of Arizona. This is ridiculous. Pardon? It was Senate Bill 1487, and it was
Passed in
it was
2016.
passed in 2016.
In fact, if you want to look the language up for it, you can go to www.azleg.gov.
Well, I got it right here.
ACLEDge.gov.
Yeah. Or you can just look up Arizona Revised Statute 41-194.
And by the way, to you legislators who are in the audience and who may be watching online, this is probably one of the most powerful tools that has been handed to the Arizona legislature, because when a political subdivision Think about that. A political subdivision exists because the state legislature has empowered them to exist. When that political subdivision chooses to act in a lawless manner, the legislature now has a tool that it can enforce the law. And I would add that this is a non-judicial procedure. You don't go in front of a judge. This is the fast track to compliance. You make the application with your complaint to the Attorney General. The Attorney General validates did it or did it not happen. If it did happen, the offending party has an opportunity to change their ways. If they don't, boom, it goes to the state treasurer and they pull back whatever that 10% number is. No judge involved. This is a no-nonsense tool that you can use.
Now, it comes down to this. We're going to get this done. Eventually, it's going to get done, like Mark says. And we want speed, and we want accuracy. We need accuracy because we got to make sure that our findings, whatever we find, is bulletproof. Is going to have to withstand any kind of court action. Bottom line is this: you have a right to scrutinize your elections. You have a First Amendment right to redress government. It's part of the First Amendment also. And for them to deny that and obstruct that is literally violation of their own oath of office. And to not comply is a complete disrespect and contempt towards the people that we are sworn to serve. We serve at the consent of the governed. And if they have no faith and trust and confidence in the process and procedures, then we are no longer a republic. We're a banana republic.
Amen.
And I kind of went on a little bit of rant yesterday about this. But somebody asked, well, what is this going to cost? What's it cost? You know, what does it cost if we don't do this and follow through? Auditing any government, this is a government function. Now, the one very thing that we have that sets us apart from all the other countries out there is the rights of the people to voice their concerns and actually select who the heck they want representing them. And that's the right to vote, and we need to make sure that. And a lot of blood, sweat, and tears went into establishing this country and doing this. And how much blood and treasure we spend overseas helping other countries get that right. So anyway, where do we go from here? We're going to get our audit completed, but you know what? We have to restore confidence in the 22 election. We have to come up with solutions. That's part of the audit process. We're finding out what needs to be done. We're getting into that we can do prospectively. But we also have something that we got something through passing the budget this year.
I got to interrupt you for a second. Okay, everybody, come. This just came out. It's Gateway Pundit. It's by Larry Johnson. And what he said, he goes, one of Lincolnville cyber experts bailed on the China hack theory earlier this week and spoke with the media. Why now? He goes down to say the cyber expert on the red team hired by Mike Lindell now says the key data underpinning the theory that China had attacked our election unveiled that the cyber symposium is illegitimate. That's a lie. Okay? China did it. Okay? It's a lie. So we're deflecting this lie and we're checking into it. The red team's checking into this Larry Johnson. It sounds like he's CIA. And is that correct? Because they don't. Right, that's the word we're getting. So we're going to check out this Larry Johnson. And I just want to interrupt you because that's what they're out there. They're trying everything they can right now to destroy the message coming out of the summit or the summit.
So where do we go from here? We already passed something in our legislative session that we come up with something nice and neat. We put it also backed it up with money in the state budget. This is what we're pushing for this next 22 election, is we have to go forward and give confidence back to the people that their vote will count. So this is something that Representative Mark Fitchman came up with. And if you can cue that tape, this really explains it a lot better. Mark, go ahead.
Yeah, get them to go ahead and key that up. Ladies and gentlemen, this is branded for Arizona, but it can be branded for your individual state. I'm happy to supply you with whatever. In fact, if you want to be part of the process mapping group, I'd like to talk to you after we're off stage. But there's an opportunity here for you to seize control of your ballots and make sure that you don't have counterfeits in the system. So, if you would, please roll the tape.
I'm Representative Mark Finchin, candidate for Secretary of State.
I'd like to talk to you for a moment about a project we've been working on at the Capitol called the Arizona Ballot Integrity Project. It's a full spectrum transparency project to give Arizona voters confidence in their election. Ballot integrity is part of the election process. Ballot integrity relies on fraud countermeasures. That's to keep the fakes out of the system. Election integrity relies on full spectrum transparency. Putting sunshine on something is a great disinfectant. We can have full spectrum transparency by making every ballot image a public record, available to everyone all the time. There's no reason not to do this. The U.S. Treasury relies on currency-grade fraud countermeasures, meaning they have UV light reactive bills, from the dollar bill to the 5 to the 10, even to the 100. You'll notice stripes, fluorescence, all manner of countermeasures. And after all, aren't our ballots just as valuable as our money?
More so.
This is an Arizona ballot replica, but there's been a change, and you'll notice that this is the future state of our ballots. A watermark that is also UV light reactive, but there's more. A QR code in the upper left-hand corner will give every ballot a unique voter number. Only the voter will know that number. You can track your ballot through the entire system to ensure that your ballot is counted and that it was counted the way you cast it. At the same time, you'll be able to look at your ballot in future days online after it's been tabulated and stored on the system. Now let's talk about the microprint. You notice waves on the watermark. You notice the valid word. But what you might not have seen is the 500 micron printing that says Arizona State. We're not endorsing ASU. It's simply the state of Arizona. You'll also notice a ballot hologram. This is translucent Mylar on the lower left-hand corner of the ballot. And it's built into the holographic watermark. So how much will all this cost? To have cost-effective ballot security, voter privacy protected, public record protection, a trust but verify system that supports ballot integrity, voter integrity, and election integrity. That's right, 25 cents a ballot. By making every ballot image available to everybody all the time, we come close to making the forensic audit obsolete. Voting should not be a question. Voting should be in secret, but the counting should never be. Let's put innovation to work for the people. My name is Mark Fincham, and I ask for your vote.
Sorry about the campaign piece, but as you can see, the ballot fraud countermeasures are designed, there are both overt and covert countermeasures in this piece. Now this is a direct output from some of the testimony that we took on November 30th. It is moving towards some of the things that we are finding out. The audit report is not out yet for the Senate, but we already know that this particular technology will assist in shutting down the potential for fake documents in the system. It will also allow, as we try to pursue the restoration of confidence in the election, one of the biggest things that we've gotten in feedback from our constituents is, they said I voted, but I can't see my ballot. I don't know for sure that they actually coded my ballot. Did they code somebody else's? Or did somebody switch my ballot out for something else? I mean, we have a lot of work to do right now to restore election integrity and the confidence that voters have in the system. Now, there are a number of countermeasures that are in this document that we have not talked about on purpose. Those are covert, and I'd be happy to talk to you about them afterwards. So if you want to be a part of mapping this new process, by the way, this has nothing to do with counting the votes. This has everything to do with up to the moment that the votes are counted. And one of the things that we're now looking at, just as a high-level piece of the process, you validate that you've got the watermark, you scan a high-resolution image, you assign the unique ballot number to it, and then you put it out on a public ledger like blockchain, or there's another service that you can put it out on. But you make it so that a voter can go to a graphic user interface, block their IP address, go through a third party, and verify that the ballot that has their number, their individual
ballot number is the same ballot they submitted in the election. Once we do that, if we put the ballot image out online before it's counted, I guarantee you that the people who are looking at that precinct in that county are going to be all over that like ugly on an egg. They are going to want to make sure that their votes are being counted and that that count matches with what the county elections officials are doing. Thank you very much.
You know, the scrutiny from the far left, the Democrats and the Department of Justice, they threaten to shut everything down, don't go out and canvass, which is really crazy because they said canvassing voters is somehow voter what's it? Intimidation, which is
How do you intimidate a dead guy?
well, yeah, I know exactly. But voter intimidation is prior to an election, not after election. Look, we want to know if the 25 people that are registered to vote at the corner of Walk and Don't Walk actually exist, and it's a vacant lot, there's no mailbox. How do you send ballots to that? How is it that 25 people are registered to vote at a Kentucky Fried Chicken? I mean, these are the kinds of things that need to be going on, so they try to threaten us with that and intimidate. Well, you know, that would mean that poll questions prior to an election would actually be voter intimidation. Either way, bottom line is don't let them intimidate you. Don't let them try to beat you up and beat you down. They're criticizing all of our people. They're literally criticizing and disrespecting the very people that actually did this work, which is really amazingly off the charts. And the fake news is they know what they're doing. Don't be intimidated. We had a saying in the Marine Corps, it's all about staying power. Okay? Stay strong, stay focused, stay motivated, stay vigilant. We are Americans.
That's right.
Surrender is not in our creed.
That's right.
Say it again. Surrender is not in our creed.
And we don't back down, we double down.
And the far left, the fake news, and the Department of Justice can do what? Go pound sand!
And you must command the narrative. I wish I had a nickel for every time I heard voter suppression or voter intimidation. You rephrase it to say it is restoration of voter integrity. Say it again after me. Restoration of voter integrity. You frame the narrative. You put it in the positive, and you command the narrative. And you double down. Every time you're attacked, you double down.
Yes.
One fraudulent vote suppresses the legal ballot.
That's right.
Okay? That, we gotta finally step up, we need to do this. I'm a proponent of paper ballot, hand count, precinct level, old school, let's get it done.
Yes!
I'll finish up with one thing. All of this discussion has been primarily about Maricopa County. And I'm glad that Senator Rogers brought up the notion of nullification. Y'all know what nullification is? Okay.
Decertification.
In Pima County, one of the documents that we received was from a burner email. A gentleman, perhaps a gentleman, I guess the burner email could have been to throw off the message. Brian Watson, 0002007@gmail.com. Wherever Brian Watson is at, Brian tells us that he sat in a meeting with the Pima County Democrat Committee, and they openly bragged about how they had inserted 35,000 fictitious votes into the system and would ensure that Donald Trump would not win Pima County. Now, I don't know about you, but if there are 35,000 fictitious votes installed into a system, the only reason that would happen is to nullify legitimate votes. So, whoever that individual is, we don't know who it is for sure, we've tried to locate him. Thank you for having a moral compass to at least say something. My appeal to Americans that are watching this, no matter what your party affiliation is, if they're willing to do it to one party, one day they will do it to you. If they want to tell people to sit down and shut up, one day they're going to tell you to sit down and shut up. That's what this is all about, ladies and gentlemen. You giving your consent to be governed under the U.S. Supreme Court doctrine of one person, one vote. Things like fractional voting, legitimate ballot nullification, electronic adjudication, all of that has to come to an end. And I believe the only way we can do that is paper ballots and hand tabulation. Thank you very much.
You know, we venture down this road, and everybody's going to, some of you are going to lose a lot of friends, and you're all going to lose a lot of friends that are going to be against us.
But were they your friends?
And they won't really your friends, but just think, all the new friends and family members you just gained, because there are millions of us.
Roger that. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.